Shalom, everyone. Before you're going to watch this video, I wanted to say two words. Usually I don't do it, I don't interrupt. But today we had a very special guest. This is a lady who is nothing less than a hero. She survived, literally survived the 7th of October attack when she and her family of 10 children, 8 of them were with her in an army base down south. She not only survived, but she also helped others. It's an amazing story. I want this story to be shared. So do me a favor after this video, after you're going to enjoy it and you're going to hear and you're going to be inspired, send it to a couple of your friends. I want this story to be out and about, and I want more people to hear, especially today in Yom Ha'atzmaut, the Independence Day, about the heroism, about the victory, and about the spirit of this nation. Thank you. Please enjoy. Shalom, everyone. Shmuel here, and today I'm really very privileged to meet nothing less than a hero, Michal. This lady, you see her. She doesn't look like a heroic soldier. She doesn't look like a tank commander. Just a lady who happened to be in a situation, the most difficult situation, on the 7th of October. Her story, I believe, it is not known enough. And after you're going to hear the story, you will see the amazing courage and situation people had to face on the 7th of October. We know the end of the story. We know all the casualties and all the bad parts. But today I want to talk about heroism and connecting to our Yom Ha'atzmaut, Independence Day, to see the courage of the people living in the hardest time. So please, Michal, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
It's our privilege. So just as a background story, where are you from? Where do you live? About your family a bit?
Yeah, so my name is Michal. We live in Kochav HaShachar, which is a settlement in Binyamin. And we have 10 kids. I'm married to Omri, which is amazing. And I'm even a grandmother. I have 2 grandchildren, Baruch Hashem. And I'm a nurse. I work in home care with people that are sick in their homes. That's what I do.
Okay, so 10 children. Wow, that's a lot. That's a blessing. And what brings you into the Gaza area, and most common, the base of Zikim? It's a training base of the army, of the IDF. What's a family with 10 children are doing there in the 7th of October?
So first I have to tell you that every time I told my story, didn't matter what enemy and casualties and weapons. When I said I had 10 children, that was like the biggest wow. Me and my husband, we looked to do something more than just working 100%. Omri is a teacher and I'm a nurse. We worked a lot and we wanted to do more. We heard about this amazing project of volunteering in military bases. You come, you do the Shabbos with them, you pray with them.
I just did the Seder night in an army base.
Really?
Yeah, Passover.
Where were
Right
you?
now I did it. Here in our community of Tzufim, 200 soldiers. It was an amazing
Wow.
experience. Yes.
Amazing. So we didn't do a Seder, we just did Shabbat each time. And we approached the holidays of 2023, and my husband said, we never did a holiday. Let's go for a holiday. And I didn't want to go because the holiday is very complicated with all the kids and the things you have to bring. But he convinced me after I said no to Rosh Hashanah and after I said no to Sukkot, came Simchat Torah, and I said yes. And each time you go to another base, it's wherever you're needed. And they told us that we were going to be in Zikim. We've never been there before. We're not from the south. We don't know the south too much. And we said, okay, it's a trainee base, like you said. They told us there are going to be about 120 soldiers there, 100 trainees, about 15, 20 commanders. And we said, okay, we took the whole family. Yeah, we arranged everything. It's a lot of arrangement to make. You have to bring the sheets because you just did the Seder, but you have to bring a lot of things. And we decided we'll go.
It's funny to imagine this because you're citizens, obviously, and you're now going to an army base. It's functioning. So you eat with the soldiers, you sleep in rooms that they're sleeping in, bunk beds, and you're like one of them, but you're a civilian. There are kids around. It's not the natural area. So you're sleeping there and you're practicing the holiday, and then you wake up on the morning of the 7th of October.
We slept in a room of 12 bunk beds because we were so many.
Wow.
And we woke up in the morning. I have to say that in the evening, We had a very nice meal with them, and my husband spoke to them about Yom Kippur War, which was 50 years before, and how we fought and the unity that was at that time. And we went to sleep and we woke up to another war. It was 6. I woke up first because I sleep very light. And I heard like a big boom, which was very weird because they told us, don't wake us up, the soldiers. On Shabbos, we don't get up early, we want to sleep. Maybe wake us at 12, we'll eat with you. And suddenly there was this big boom, which was weird. And then I started hearing 6:29, red alert, the siren. It's a woman saying, Tzeva Adom, red alert. I woke up all the kids. I said, I don't know, get dressed. I wasn't so nervous because I knew it could happen. And I said, okay, it would take 10 minutes and we'll go back to our regular life.
It could happen, meaning there are going to be some bombs being thrown, like some missiles, like these
Rockets and
attacks
missiles.
happen all the time. But
Yeah,
you didn't
it
imagine,
happens.
of course.
I didn't imagine, and also it could happen because I knew we were on the border, but we were told that the missiles never get to the base. They go over the base, they come to Ashkelon because they want to get to the population. So I thought we're safe, even
Because
if it would
you're
happen.
too close to the border, it makes no sense to shoot. They want to throw it into the
Exactly,
cities. Wow.
exactly. And then after the kids got dressed up, we waited and we saw it keeps coming, the sirens, and we started hearing really noises of the rockets falling around us. We heard the noises, and we usually don't use the phone on Shabbos, but I told my husband, listen, I don't know if we're in a sheltered place because this room has windows. It's not sheltered. You have to call someone and ask him what do we have to do? Maybe we have to go somewhere. And he tried calling 2 people first, Adir Abudi, and he was the big commander of the base. He couldn't answer already. He was in the middle of arranging everything. And then he called Or Moses. Or Moses was a soldier, his soldier. She was also a commander. She was in the middle of arranging. She couldn't answer. And then he called the rabbi of the base that wasn't there for Shabbos. He answered him after one call on Shabbos morning. It was 6:45 in the morning. And he told him, you have to find the shelter. You can't stay wherever you are. It's not safe. You have to find a shelter. There are many shelters in the base. Just look for the shelter and go. He went. My husband went with 2 kids to look for the shelter, and I stayed there with the others. I closed the door as if it would help from the rockets, but I felt safer. And I waited, and after 2 minutes came one of the soldiers that accepted us to the base. He remembered that we're there, civilians in the middle of this. And Yoav was his name, and he said, Michal, you have to come fast, take all the kids. We're going to the shelter. They had a very organized protocol there that when there is something like that, they take the boys to one shelter and the girls to the other. And I remember when we went, I took the pacifier and this little blanket that my little one likes. We were there with 8 kids. The little one was 1 year and 8 months, and the eldest one was 21 years old. And I took this pacifier and this little blanket, and my 17-year-old had to take a dress she bought for the holiday. She said, I'm wearing the dress of the day before. I need to take this dress. I said, you know what? Doesn't matter. Just run. And we went with those 3 things. We ran with the kids. On the way, I found him. We went before to look for the shelter. He didn't find it. And we got to the shelter, all of us. When we got there, we saw all the soldiers. It was the boys' shelter. They were wearing pajamas. They had short trousers and short sleeves.
I want to stop you and just make it clear. These kids are training to be soldiers, meaning they're going to be in the army maybe 1 month to 4 months, I assume. This is like the training period. They're
6
still
weeks. They
6
just got
weeks.
to the army 6 weeks before.
So we're not talking about trained soldiers. We're talking about
No,
kids who are
kids.
learning to become soldiers. They're
Yeah,
afraid.
18-year-olds.
They're shocked. They are in the middle of an attack they could not imagine.
It's true. I remember telling my kids, also the soldiers here are stressed. Don't push them. There are soldiers here that came from Tel Aviv, that came from Hulon. They don't know the area. They never heard rockets. They told us before, the night before, there were never rockets there, so don't worry. Yeah, they were just kids. Kids, and also they weren't, because they were thrown out of bed. It was very early in the morning. They didn't come wearing their uniform and everything. Most of them had their weapons, but they didn't wear uniforms. And I saw them talking, laughing, again, like me. They thought it would be over in a couple of minutes. But it kept on going, and the commanders just stood in front of us. There were about 5, 6 commanders with us in the shelter, and each time one of them stood in front of us. And when I'm saying commanders, we're talking about 21 years old. They're also kids, okay? They're about 2 years in the army. They know what they have to do, but they're still kids. So they stood in front of us, and they were very official. They said, "Don't worry, everything will be okay. It happens, it will be over, and we'll be back to whatever we were doing." But when they were talking, we heard they got messages in their radios saying, "We need you, take your weapons, wear all the uniform you can, take everything and run to one of the watchtowers." And we saw that all the commanders slowly ran out of the shelter. They ran to the watchtowers. After that, we learned to know that Adil Bodi, who died that day, he was very smart, and he told all his commanders to run and switch the trainees that were at the watchtowers, because there were trainees, again, 6 weeks in the army, had no idea how to manage fighting. So he told them, run and switch the trainees. So they left us. And we stayed with Yoav, the only logistic commander that was there. And at some point, he said, "I need four soldiers, 4 volunteers that would run and bring a soldier that is hurt." He said she fell from a watchtower. And I remember I thought it was very weird. Someone would fall from a watchtower. But I thought, okay, maybe the rocket, the noise, maybe she heard it and she fell. Afterwards, he told me he said that because he didn't want to scare the soldiers. And also at that point, I remember I thought to myself, I'm a nurse. When there's someone hurt, you suddenly remember what you can do. So I told Yoav, you know what, when you bring her, let me see, maybe I can do something. He chose 4 soldiers. I have to say, all the soldiers, almost all of them, 90% raised their hands. They were and they had no problem running to the fire to bring her. They weren't dressed, but they had a lot of courage, really. And they ran to bring her. And when they brought her, they didn't bring her into the shelter, which was weird. Another thing that was weird, because the rockets kept on going, and they didn't bring her inside. They put her outside the shelter, like on the left. And I told Yoav, you know what? I'll go out. And I told him where I'm going, and I went to her. And when I saw her, that was maybe the first shock I had that day, starting to understand that this is a different reality than what I've been thinking till now. She was hurt very badly. She was shot here with a bullet that got into her nose and stuck in her skull. I didn't know that. I thought she fell, but all her eye was popping outside. She had a lot of bleeding. She looked horrible, and I didn't understand how could it be if she fell. Why would she look like that? Maybe I didn't understand. I
So
wanted to talk
until
to her.
that moment, you still don't realize what's happening, the attack, the
No,
terror. It sounds something general, and you're just now realizing what's going on in here.
no, I still didn't understand. I
Wow.
still thought she fell, but it didn't match the
Very
clinic,
bad.
how
Yeah.
she looked. It looked
Yeah.
bad, so I didn't understand. And I tried talking to her. Her name was Noah, they told me, and I asked her, Noah, what happened to you? Did you fall? I tried to understand, why does she look like that? And she couldn't answer me directly, but she kept trying to get up from the stretcher that she was lying on, and she said to me, my head is exploding and I have to go to the bathroom. And she kept moving. I know you're not supposed to move someone with a head injury because it could complicate things, but she was moving anyway. So I told the soldiers next to me, you know what, let's take her to the room next to the shelter and I'll help her do a bathroom. She'll feel better and she'll be calmer and maybe she'll move less. We took her, me and those 4. We got to the room. I helped her take off her clothes, and she was really much calmer after she did her bathroom. I put like a blanket over her. When I did that, one of the soldiers that were with me in the room, they all helped me a lot. They wanted to bring me things or what could they do. One of them, that I think he wanted to keep her dignity, he went to the entrance of the room and to the door, not to see how I'm taking off her clothes, whatever. And he was there, and I finished. She was lying down. I think she lost her conscious then. And after I put the blanket, I turned around to bring some towels and water. We had no medical equipment there, but they brought me water and like fabrics. I turned around to bring something, and then I heard shooting really close to me. Now, I heard all the time there were a lot of noises, but I don't recognize noises of weapons or different weapons. I thought it were the rockets, whatever. And then suddenly I heard this loud noise, and when I turned around, I saw Neria. It's each time I'm telling this, it's emotional for me, so don't worry. I saw Neria, a very young soldier that we learned to know him the day before. He was the soldier that stood at the entrance, and he was shot in his head. He fell into the room. It took seconds, and I saw him with all the blood, whatever. I knew he was choking. I had nothing to do, and he died. And then his friend, Daniel, next to me, standing, another soldier, ran to him and tried talking to him. Neria, Neria, what happened to you? And Neria, of course, couldn't answer. And then he looked at me and he said, Michal, can't we do anything? Help him. And I said, I'm sorry, but I think he's dead. He's not with us. They're 18-year-olds together in this trainee program. He took his hand and he pulled the body into the room. I think he wanted Neria to be with us. And I had this stupid thought of, wow, kid, why did you do that? I was scared now because he moved the body. So maybe someone, the one that shot him, knows now that there are other people in the room. Though it was a stupid thought because he knew anyway. And then I saw another soldier standing at the entrance of the room, wearing everything, all the uniform and the weapons. And I was happy he will take us back to the shelter. But when I looked at him more carefully, I saw that he was much, much older than all those young soldiers running around the base. And only then, when I looked at his face, I understood that's the terrorist.
Wow.
Yeah, I was shocked. I didn't even understand they were terrorists. I was very naive. And when I saw him looking at Noah lying there on the bed, and thank God he thought she was dead, so he didn't shoot her. And then he looked at me in the eye. I was wearing like a dress and a head cover. I had no weapon. I thought he won't shoot me because I wasn't any threat. I had no idea, of course, what's going on in the south and what they're doing. And he just looked me in the eye. He picked up his weapon and he shot me a bundle of klim, and I felt I was hurt very badly. I mainly felt my hand falling apart from my body. I knew I was bleeding very hard. And I remember I took off my head cover and I did myself a tourniquet. And I knew I have to go back to the shelter. That's what I remembered.
What about the 3 soldiers that are with you?
While I was occupied with myself, I know afterwards, I didn't remember anything of what happened. I was just with myself. But after that, I know that after he shot me, Daniel, the young trainee, I don't know with what courage and how, he jumped on the terrorist and he tried to take his weapon, but the terrorist was a very trained terrorist. He just took out a knife, a commando knife, and he stabbed Daniel in his head, so Daniel was also hurt. But another soldier, Ayman was his name, he's a Druze soldier, he came from where he hid, I don't know where, and he managed to shoot the terrorist dead while he was fighting with Daniel. It was like 2 meters from the shelter. Thank God the terrorist could have thrown a grenade into the, yeah, he could have done it. He had a lot of weapons on him. And thank God he was shot and he didn't get to the shelter. He came to us. I told Neria's mother that I think he saved all of us, all the soldiers that were
The
in
big shelter.
and all my family and the kids. Yeah, because he came to us. He thought we were the shelter. They found maps in his uniform. He knew exactly where we were. He knew the protocol of boys' shelter and a girls' shelter. He knew where he was going. But the fact that Neria stood there outside the door pushed him to come to us. So thank God he didn't get to the shelter.
So now you are injured. it's a mess. And in the next shelter, it's your husband and your kids. What
Yes.
do you do from there?
So I went to the shelter. I managed somehow to get to the shelter and I
With
fell
your injured hand.
with my hand, and also I had two bullets that hurt my body. I had one in my chest and one in my stomach, but I managed to get to the shelter. I fell at the entrance not because I lost my conscience, because I was very weak. And one of the soldiers came to my husband and said, "Your wife was shot. She's injured. Let's bring her into the shelter." So Omri, my husband, came and helped me go in. And I remember I was thinking, my kids are watching me, and I don't want them to be traumatized and I tried smiling to them. Just, I didn't know what they're seeing, but to show them that I'm okay. My 17-year-old afterwards laughed at me that I looked so bad and white that it didn't really help that I smiled, but I felt I was like doing
Doing
something
your
for me and
best.
for them. Yeah, I'm doing my best. And then I just sat there on the floor. I leaned back and I told my husband, I don't know why, but my dress is full of blood and I did this tourniquet here, so I don't understand why I'm still so soaking. And I told him, he's very gentle, Omri. He can't watch a scratch usually, but I said, you have to look. And he looked and he said, Michal, I don't know, you have two more holes here. He saw the two bullets that I got in my body, and I just told him, you have to push whatever. The soldiers around us, the kids were amazing. They gave us their shirts. They took off their shirts. We had nothing there. So he pushed with the shirts. He used them as bandages. And also, I remember there's this, I know you say it's something that separates, there are all sorts of like separation things in the army, in the base,
It's
right?
like a wall that you move from place to place to
Exactly.
separate between places and
Exactly.
shared common spaces.
Exactly, and it's very easy to carry it and bring it. So I told him, wait, I remember there are on the base, if we can find one around us. And he found really quickly and he brought it. So I wanted to feel that my kids are not watching me the whole time, and also that I can be a little bit more like not hold myself behind it. So he brought it and it was much better. And also I remember Roni's dress, my daughter's dress, the new dress that she bought. And I told him, take the dress, tear it. First, make me a head cover because I felt without a head cover missing something, and also use it for another tourniquet for my hand and as bandages. It was great that she brought it. It was amazing.
I just want to mention, very Jewish mother of you, that in the middle of the event, you're still like telling everybody what to do and your husband, and you do this and you guide him through when he has no knowledge and you're saying that his instincts are not into it at all. You're guiding him what to do when you're injured.
He told me afterwards, he said, I thought you're not going to live because I saw the holes and I saw the blood, but then you kept giving me orders. So I said, okay, she's as usual. Everything's okay. She's going to live. If she's giving me orders, she's okay.
Wow.
I'm a free control. It's you can't leave it if you have it. And Baruch Hashem, really, he pushed and we waited. The kids were amazing. They asked what they could help. They came. Some of them cried a little bit, but they saw I'm fine. And there was one of my kids held the 1 and 8 years old on her lap, and she made her be quiet because they were told not to talk loudly and to be quiet because the terrorists were running around. There were about 10, 12 terrorists that got into the base and they were looking for all the soldiers. And they tried calling Madam again, the Vidadom, rescue. Yeah, but they said they can't go in because there are shootings and whatever. So
There
they
were
won't
hundreds of
can't help.
incidents around the area. How can they arrive to you?
They couldn't come. They asked him, did you do a tourniquet? They gave him some orders, but they couldn't come. And miraculously, really, after about 4.5 hours, I was shot at about 8 in the morning. And at about 12, there were two amazing people from near Jerusalem that just decided they heard what's going on. They got WhatsApp messages and everything, and they decided they're going to help. And when they went out of their where they lived, they saw this hitchhiker, which was a soldier from Zikim. She was one of the commanders at what it was its home that Shabbos. And she said she saw WhatsApps from her soldiers, were from her trainees, that something horrible is happening. And she wants, if they're going to the south, she wants to first to go to Zikim. So they came to us first.
Wow.
Thank God they rescue us.
Citizens that left Jerusalem, they had
Yeah,
nothing to do in the south. They heard of the incident, and like many other heroes, not many, we need
so
to
many.
count them and we need to mention them, but heroes literally went into the fire to save their brothers and sisters. And happened
Yes,
to
and
be that Zikim was elected to be the first place.
Nachon afterwards, they went to Be'eri, they went to Re'im, they went to Nachalos. They rescued so many people that day. They were amazing.
We know their
They
names.
yeah, Erez Eshel is the
Erez
older
Eshel is
one,
like the Mechina. He's a
right?
pre-army academy teacher and he's student.
And one of his students, Nam David,
Wow.
the two of them came to us and they just saved us. They took us out from there. First, it was me and my husband and the other injured soldiers that were there. And they promised that they'll take out the kids afterwards. And one of the soldiers that also came from his house, he wasn't there. He also came in the middle of everything and he took the kids out. Thank God we were saved.
Michal,
Baruch
in
Hashem.
those 4 hours, right after your injury, after you gave all the orders, and you're sitting there and basically you're bleeding, maybe slowly, but you're still bleeding. Can you share what you have in your mind? What are your thoughts?
It's a good question. I started dealing with God. What's going to happen? I said, you know what? If I'll get out of here, even without my hand, it's okay. So I'll live without a hand. I thought about my kids, that they won't get hurt. I thought even of how traumatized they will be, what would happen to them. I had this, I don't know how, I had this feeling that it will be okay. I'll get out of there. I'll get out of there. I didn't know how and what. That were my thoughts. And I actually, because I couldn't do anything physically, I just pushed Omri, my husband, poor husband. I just told him, you have to push, you have to tell someone, you have to evacuate, because I didn't know how long are we going to survive. There was me, there was Daniel that was hurt in his head, and there was another soldier that was shot in his leg, and he was losing a lot of blood and conscious. So I just tried pushing Omri. And yeah, it's a lot of very strong moments and strong minutes and hours. And the adrenaline is very high in your body. And it's like surviving. That's what I felt.
Tell me,
Wow.
what's the medical condition of all those people that were injured that you mentioned, and including yourself?
So I'll start with Noah, the soldier that I tried to treat. I actually didn't do anything. I couldn't help her. As I said, she had a bullet in her skull, but she was evacuated with us, and thank God, she's alive. She survived. She lost her eye, but she's cognitively okay and she's physically okay. She needs some more operations that she's doing, but she's in rehab.
Oh,
And Daniel, 2 weeks after he was brought to the hospital, he was released. The knife that touched him, so many miracles happened that day. And the knife that was inserted here didn't touch any important organ or any vessel. So he was back on his legs 2 weeks after that. Ishan, the soldier that was shot in his leg, took a little bit more time because he needed a lot of rehab to do. But he's already back in the army also. He's okay. And I'm okay. I had surgeries. Yeah, I had a nerve that was torn in my hand. The body, Baruch Hashem, thank God, nothing touched important organs. I had bleedings and everything, but nothing was hurt really. And my hand, it took me a long time to bring it back. It's moving. I still can't do some maneuvers, and I'm still doing physiotherapy and occupational therapy, but it's really small things compared to what could have happened.
wow, wow. Michal, listen, it's more than an inspiring story. It's a story of unbelievable strength and faith and being in all of that. All of us, I think, when we hear those stories, we imagine like a movie. Hey, she stood, she did, but you were there. You were like the main actor, and you actually had no reversals. You had to just do what you do. And I think the greatest lesson that I've taken from it is like a person who, as you mentioned several times, people acted. They needed volunteer. People volunteered. People came from Jerusalem. You were a nurse. whatever I can do, I will do. In those kind of situations, the real honest truth of who you are
comes out. It's
comes
true.
out.
That's what strengthened me.
Yeah.
And even afterwards, I thought about it the whole time. People in Israel are very strong, or at least I'm talking about kids, but they just did what they were taught to do, and like the best character of them just showed up. It's amazing to know that we have such a wonderful nation.
Exactly. And I want to thank you for the inspiring words. And I want to wish you all the best in any way with your 10 children and in your recovery and all the great things you do. You heard a person works, but it wants to do more. They want to volunteer. They want to give hope. So you gave a lot of hope for us. You gave us a lot of strength in Hashem. And more than anything, in these days of Yom Ha'atzmaut and also the memorial days for the soldiers, we remember our heroes and we remember how heroes like you and all the soldiers those days until now are what really brings us back to life. And we don't forget that Hashem is always there watching us, involved in so many ways. Like you said, you saw miracles. And I'm sure you're a different person after all of that you experienced. And it's an amazing, inspiring story.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's really one story out of thousands of amazing stories. Thank you for inviting me. And Bezrat Hashem, there will be good news for all Am Yisrael and for all the nations. Bezrat Hashem.
Amen. Amen.